This evening the web was ablaze, a narrative so gripping, so unclear, and so authentic that nobody could distinguish between reality and fabrication. Candace Owens, the figure recognized for her willingness to address the unspeakable, had just engaged in a direct confrontation with Ben Shapiro. An encounter that many labeled a conservative media shockwave. The atmosphere was already thick with anticipation. Then abruptly, a development unfolded, and it shocked the entire digital community. The speculation started to circulate. An unsettling phrase surfaced across feeds. They made Charlie vanish. Yes, you heard that correctly. Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA, had reportedly vanished under enigmatic conditions. No declaration, no sign, just an extended quiet and inquiries no one was prepared to address. From that instant, the internet erupted. Every post, every video, every tag, everything centered on one inquiry. What actually took place? Supporters demanded answers. Shows and discussion boards were alive with theories, and Candace Owens wasn't quiet. She emerged, her tone hushed and pointed. Her gaze appeared to penetrate Ben Shapiro as she stated, "Do you suppose this is merely happenstance, Ben? Do you genuinely accept that Charlie simply vanished? No, you're aware of more than that. No." In that instant, the room went still. Audiences could sense each tense breath through their screens. Ben Shapiro, who always articulated more rapidly than anyone could process, was utterly mute at this moment. And in that brief moment, everything shifted. No one knew what was genuine, what was hearsay, or if it was all just a meticulously planned maneuver for power. From speculation, the narrative evolved into a worldwide enigma. Twitter erupted. The tag "Where is Charlie" was ubiquitous online. From TikTok to Instagram, users dissected, shared, and examined Candace's every expression, every statement. Whenever the establishment states something and doesn't probe deeper, we can't permit that to occur here. I won't permit that to occur here because this something dreadful has shaken the world, all right? And I believe that when it comes to this, the press, the authorities, the commentators, everyone is misleading us about what truly transpired. With some murmured that she had made the most audacious disclosure of her professional life. Others claimed Candace had inadvertently encountered a power that didn't want the facts revealed. And if Charlie Kirk had indeed vanished under suspicious conditions, then perhaps this clash was merely the first installment of something larger, more profound and more unforeseeable than anything we could have ever envisioned. This wasn't just a heated discussion. It was a political tremor reverberating through every part of social media. When Candace spoke, her statements weren't just a fad. They halted the world because what she communicated alluded to something the world wasn't prepared to confront, something that was nearly forbidden to articulate. To comprehend why the moment was so volatile, we must revisit the past. Back when Candace, Ben, and Charlie had first joined the same sphere of influence. From an external view, their partnership seemed unbreakable, but the fissures had existed long ago, before the broadcasts had even begun. Candace Owens. She was once regarded as an unstoppable force, but she wasn't always the conservative figurehead she is today. She began as an independent writer before making a complete reversal, becoming a fierce, bold, unapologetic, conservative voice. Candace is not a gentle person. She is passionate, straightforward, and never hesitant to sever any connection that obstructs her path. Now, in the heart of a tempest, that passion burns more intensely than ever. It's stripping away the polished facades of politics and leaving the world questioning, is Candace Owens revealing the truth, or is she engaging in a hazardous game she cannot manage? That's what keeps millions of people captivated by her. Admire her or despise her, Candace is unapologetically herself, passionate, outspoken, and relentless. She has clashed with public figures, officials, and even her nearest allies. Influential people murmur that Candace is too radical for the conventional conservative realm, but too significant to be ignored. She commands a disillusioned younger generation who are drawn to her raw energy, her genuineness, and her defiant spirit. Then there's Ben Shapiro, the intellectual force of the movement. With his incisive reasoning and detached exactness, he has cultivated an image of a composed academic, always managing his feelings and never allowing himself to be thrown off course. But beneath that logic, there's something more profound, a deep link to the powerful, to those who control the finances, and to the very system Candace is confronting. But behind that composed, logical exterior was something more profound. A close association with the conservative establishment, with major contributors, research organizations, and unseen power brokers who saw Ben as the acceptable face of the movement. If Candace was the flame of defiance, then Ben Shapiro was the guardian of the status quo. And positioned between those two poles was Charlie Kirk, the man who built Turning Point USA into a multi-million-dollar organization led by young people. Charlie transformed politics into a production with dazzling platforms, cheering student audiences, and celebrities amplifying his message. He dubbed himself the young champion of the conservative cause, and to his followers he was a source of motivation. But to critics, he was an enigma, brimming with ambition and harboring secrets no one could unravel. For years, Candace, Ben, and Charlie had been a formidable trio on stage, in the news, and in the public view. They were celebrated as the future of the conservative cause. But then, keen observers started to perceive a shift. Behind the radiant smiles was a tension that could not be concealed. Candace began to feel like a piece in Charlie's organization, while Ben quietly doubted her rash impulses, labeling her a threat to the movement's stability. And behind the curtain, insiders whispered that Charlie had become conceited. He viewed himself as the paramount leader, the architect behind everything that occurred. The partnership wasn't founded on trust, but on expediency. But when self-importance, capital, and clout began to clash, those fissures became impossible to ignore. Candace was the first to break the quiet. She spoke in indirect terms of clandestine arrangements, concealed finances, and questionable monetary trails that no one wanted to investigate. She didn't specify individuals, but her implications were clear enough for the world to notice. And once they did, no one could pretend to be unaware. Music Ben Shapiro, preserving his composed persona, opted not to challenge her directly. He replied with a subtle mockery, suggesting that some people allow their feelings to dismantle what logic constructed. But it was that remark, that detachment, that ignited a blaze that no one could extinguish. From that point, things started to descend into chaos. An unavoidable collision between logic, pride, and passion broke out. And once it commenced, there was no going back. The viewers understood instantly who Ben was referring to. Social media erupted within minutes, and everyone arrived at the same conclusion. Ben Shapiro was openly criticizing Candace Owens. Meanwhile, Charlie Kirk was attempting his best to mediate between his two most prominent figures. But his own reputation was starting to fracture. Rumors proliferated like a blaze. Whispers of secret affairs, corrupt transactions, and a side of Charlie the public had never witnessed. Some unnamed profiles even alleged Charlie's youthful Christian crusader persona was just a flawlessly choreographed show, that the man away from the limelight was nothing like the character he had professed. The public started to split. Some believed, some were skeptical, but all were desperate for genuine answers. And then the unavoidable occurred. All that had been suppressed. The aggravation, the strife, the off-screen critiques finally erupted live in front of countless viewers. What had appeared to be a standard debate had transformed into the most dramatic clash in the chronicles of conservative media. The cameras went quiet. The atmosphere was so heavy it could have been sliced with a blade. The room was silent. Candace leaned in, her tone as cutting as a razor, her stare fixed on Ben Shapiro. "Do you genuinely believe this was a coincidence, Ben? Do you think Charlie simply vanished?" "No, I'm aware of what's happening." The statements landed like a thunderclap. The room was hushed. This was no longer a discussion. It was a public indictment. Candace wasn't just questioning Ben Shapiro. She was alluding to something larger, more profound, and more perilous. The way she framed it, Charlie's peculiar vanishing wasn't an accident. It was a calculated quiet from powers that didn't want the facts to come to light. If that was accurate, then the alliance between Candace, Ben, and Charlie was never built on trust. It was built on command. And this wasn't just politics. This was a battle for existence in a system of contradictions and secret pacts. When Candace concluded her statement, the room was motionless. You could have sworn you could have heard a pin drop. This was no longer a trending moment to clip and share. It was a shockwave that would fracture the entire conservative sphere. Ben Shapiro, who was renowned for his rapid rebuttals, was speechless at this moment, and that quiet spoke volumes. The audience was astonished. All eyes were on the two of them. The atmosphere was so dense it could warp metal. Then Ben inhaled, smiled slightly, Shapiro's characteristic smile, and finally spoke. "Candace, that's absurd. Charlie Kirk as well. You're propagating unfounded rumors, and honestly, it's only damaging your own credibility." But rather than soothing the tempest, Ben's words only poured gasoline on the fire. Because anyone who observed closely realized he didn't deny what Candace had just implied. And it was that avoidance that made the situation all more dubious. Was Ben safeguarding himself or something or someone behind the scenes that he dared not identify? No one knew. What was known was that from that instant, the tension was no longer an emotion. It had escalated into a full-blown hurricane. The audience couldn't bear it any longer. Half the crowd started jeering at Candace, yelling that she had crossed a line, but the other half rose to their feet and applauded, cheering that she had dared to voice the reality that no one else had been willing to address. Then from the center of the assembly, a cry echoed, "Where is Charlie?" 1 moment, 2 moments, then the entire audience chanted in unison like a booming roar. "Charlie! Charlie!" The sound vibrated, shaking the atmosphere. Security had to intervene, attempting to pacify the furious crowd. The cameras were still broadcasting, capturing every stunning moment. Within moments, the clip had disseminated like a blaze across social media. Before the event concluded, the tag "Where is Charlie Kirk" had become a worldwide phenomenon. TikTok was inundated with videos titled "Candace Owens just exposed Ben Shapiro live." Viewers replayed each scene, inspected each glance, analyzed each motion, convinced that this narrative was more complex than they knew. But what perplexed everyone most was that Charlie Kirk remained completely silent. A week went by. No posts, no videos, no appearances, no interviews, not a single trace from the man who once was active on social media daily. For someone who lived online like Charlie, the silence was no longer ordinary. It was disturbing. Supporters began unearthing old pictures, photos of Charlie with influential backers, controversial personalities, and started to question, has he become too entangled with a secret that shouldn't be revealed? Then the online tempest truly intensified. Channels like Truth Uncovered and Exposed Files have all floated the same disturbing hypothesis. They silenced him. According to them, Charlie didn't simply vanish. He was compelled to leave the public eye. The theory spread like a wildfire. Each post, each clip, each new report only stoked the fires of alarm. The question reverberated everywhere, but only one. Where is Charlie Kirk? Some believed he was being concealed for his own protection, but others murmured that he was muted by the very forces he had collaborated with. Then came the first bombshell, a series of disclosed messages. So Charlie writes in this group chat, "Just lost another huge Jewish donor. $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace." Somebody writes, "I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel." And I just want to address it head on because, that was a text grab, a screen grab that I had shared with people. So it is authentic, and I want to go into it because I actually am really excited that the truth is out there. I first want to say the reason I didn't share that screen grab publicly is because it was a private exchange, and I felt like it didn't necessarily comport with things that were already public. I wanted to not betray my friend's trust in that way. Screenshots circulated on Twitter. Purportedly a dialogue between Candace Owens and a contact saved under the name CK. The first message allegedly from Candace, "I think you need to get out before it's too late." And the reply allegedly from CK was just a few words, eerily detached. "I can't. They'll locate me. You don't comprehend how grave this is." Hours later, the profile that posted the images vanished without a trace. The post was removed without explanation, but the internet didn't forget. On the contrary, it erupted. People were asking, is Charlie ensnared in something beyond his command? A network of power, secrecy, and silence, just like in a real-life political thriller. And then the focus began to move. This time, the pressure was squarely on Ben Shapiro. Old clips of Ben Shapiro were suddenly unearthed with frames of him evading, his gaze shifting. The captions were omnipresent. "Ben knows something. Ben is the one orchestrating events." The memes were everywhere. Ben behind the scenes, Ben scheming, Ben silencing Charlie. Even devoted followers began to ask, if Ben believes Charlie is fine, why not demonstrate it? And why is Turning Point USA silent? The silence became overwhelming. The longer it persisted, the more the public became convinced that something was being concealed. Then one night, an unnamed profile called Shadow Lake surfaced. The post was brief but alarming. Charlie attempted to expose them and was unsuccessful. If Candace persists, she'll be next. It was accompanied by a grainy picture which seemed to show a person resembling Charlie being led into a black SUV. The post was removed within minutes, but by then, the harm was done. The internet was buzzing again. People were examining every pixel, debating whether the photo was genuine or fabricated, but everyone agreed on one point. Candace's words were no longer a query, but a caution. Then came the second bombshell. A mysterious audio recording surfaced, supposedly a call between Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk himself. A deep male voice, resembling Charlie's, murmured, "Candace, I'm concerned. If I tell you, it'll be finished." And a female voice replied coolly, "Then why did you contact me? You knew they would find me." The recording ended suddenly. No conclusion, no context. But for millions, it was definitive proof that Charlie was in peril, and Candace was the only one who dared to speak out. Social media erupted again. The recording was played millions of times. People debated over every second and every word. Ben Shapiro finally had to react. He posted a video refuting it, labeling it all baseless conspiracy theories. But instead of calming the storm, Ben's reply only intensified the flames. Ben Shapiro's response only worsened the situation. His manner was cold, his answers evasive, and to many, he appeared genuinely troubled. One viral tweet summarized it perfectly. "Ben can tell us everything except where Charlie is." Commentators started to view him with suspicion. One popular profile wrote, "Ben is no longer an outsider. He's a protector safeguarding the forces behind the curtain." Even ardent conservatives began to panic. They pleaded for an explanation, a picture, a sign that Charlie was all right. But the official Turning Point USA profile remained completely silent, posting only a few vague statements about continuing the work. Then the narrative expanded beyond politics. Kanye West posted, "They always target the people who know too much." Andrew Tate called it part of the global agenda. Elon Musk wrote just 3 words, "Where is Charlie?" With that, the tag "Where is Charlie" surged globally. The mainstream press attempted to douse the flames, calling it a baseless conspiracy theory. But the more they denied it, the more the public became convinced that something was truly being hidden. Then came a new shock. A person claiming to be a Turning Point employee sent an anonymous message to the media. "Charlie hasn't been seen in weeks. The leadership instructed us not to inquire. Everyone is frightened. Candace knows more than she's revealing." The post went viral. Shortly after, an internal email was disclosed with the subject line, "Charlie Kirk Legacy Fund." It discussed a continuity of operations plan if circumstances deteriorated. No one mentioned the word "vanished," but the contents were sufficient to set social media ablaze. The photo spread across X, TikTok, Reddit, Telegram. And in the middle of the turmoil, Candace Owens appeared on Instagram Live. "I know what I'm discussing. Charlie is my friend. He told me the things that placed him in jeopardy. And if you think Ben isn't aware, you're deceiving yourself." She offered no proof, but the certainty in her tone sent the internet into a frenzy once more. Before the storm could even subside, a grainy photo appeared, supposedly taken from a medical center, showing a man resembling Charlie Kirk lying still. The only 2 words accompanying the photo, "He's gone." No one could verify if it was authentic or counterfeit. Some said it was AI, others insisted it was real. The internet was sharply divided. Charlie is alive. Charlie is gone. And in the middle of that storm, Ben Shapiro remains silent. No confirmation, no refutation, just a cold emptiness and a question echoing across the internet. Where is Charlie Kirk? If Charlie Kirk, is he living or has he been muted eternally? If Candace Owens is truthful, this is no longer a personal dispute with Ben Shapiro. It is a political tremor that could destabilize the entire conservative movement. What began as a debate has transformed into the largest cultural firestorm of the decade. The suspicious image, the gossip, and the quiet of Turning Point USA have only fueled public sentiment. The internet is split into numerous factions. Some dissect Candace's every glance. Some scrutinize Ben's every reaction. Each convinced they have uncovered the truth. The online community is divided. One side sees Candace as revealing the underworld. The other believes she is undermining the movement from within. Memes are rampant. Charlie on milk cartons. Ben as mastermind, Candace as informant. Donors are perplexed. Turning Point staff whisper that they have been instructed to stay silent. Famous personalities like Kanye West, Andrew Tate, and Elon Musk all participated, pushing the tag, "Where is Charlie Kirk?" to trend globally. The media tried to suppress the rumors, but the more they denied, the more the public grew doubtful. The question spread all the way to Washington. Who's been communicating with Charlie lately? No one had an answer. Ben Shapiro was now seen as the primary antagonist. His trademark calm tone now sounded cold and remote. Every video, every podcast, every comment exploded with the same question. Ben knows more than he's admitting. What started as a personal clash, it turned into a public civil war within the conservative movement. The more Ben Shapiro tried to act normal, posting podcasts, sharing news as if nothing had happened, the more the online backlash intensified. Everywhere there was only one question. Where is Charlie? People no longer wanted comfort. They wanted evidence, a photo, a video, anything that would show Charlie Kirk was safe. But with each day that passed in silence, the narrative grew more sinister. Rumors accumulated. Fake pictures circulated. Mysterious disclosures emerged one after another. Then Candace Owens set social media on fire. A short but significant tweet. Ben can say whatever. TPUSA can conceal it. The media can mock. But when the truth emerges, you'll understand why Charlie is gone. The tweet spread across the internet in minutes. Hundreds of thousands of shares. People rushed to interpret. What was Candace cautioning against? Is she about to unveil a major secret? Or is this the desperate plea of someone cornered? Whatever it was, one thing was evident. Candace Owens had touched something the power structure wanted to keep concealed. And whether Charlie Kirk was living, missing, or just concealing himself, the repercussions from this storm were only just commencing. That night, Candace appeared in a simple live stream. No special effects, no decorations. Her voice was weary but resolute. They believe they can erase Charlie. But I will not be quiet, because if I am quiet, I'm next. And you know who they are. Just that one sentence. The phrase, "Who are they?" trended worldwide in minutes. After the viral tweet, millions of people attempted to decipher who Candace Owens was alluding to. Then, as anticipated, a new disclosure surfaced. An unnamed profile released internal documents that allegedly connected Turning Point USA to dubious corporations and funds. Among the documents was an image of Charlie Kirk's signature on an international non-disclosure agreement. No one could confirm it, but the image spread across the web, prompting the question, Charlie wasn't silent. He was compelled to be silent. Is he trapped in a network of power he created, or is he trying to flee it? No one has an answer. After weeks of silence, Ben Shapiro finally spoke. Candace Owens is propagating falsehoods. Charlie Kirk is secure. I just can't speak right now. And that's all I can say. Those last 6 words, "that's all I can say," were enough to set the internet ablaze. If Charlie was truly secure, why didn't he just say it himself? Candace quickly retorted with a grainy photo with the caption, "The last time I saw him." The photo shows a man who looked like Charlie surrounded by men in suits in an underground parking structure. The photo was quickly taken down, but millions had already saved, shared, and analyzed every frame. The question was everywhere. Charlie was being monitored. Is Candace next? Is Ben protecting the truth or concealing it? The internet was burning with the most haunting question. What truly happened to Charlie Kirk? What was once a debate between Candace and Ben had now become the darkest mystery on social media. Disclosed documents, grainy photos, strange emails, and Ben's ambiguous words. All of them are incongruous fragments, depicting a picture of power, silence, and dread. Now it's your turn. Do you believe Charlie is truly gone or just concealing himself? Is Candace a courageous revealer of the truth or a piece in a larger game, and Ben Shapiro? Is he silent out of prudence or because he knows something we don't? Share your opinions in the comments, and remember this isn't the conclusion, just the start of something that could destabilize the entire movement.